Well, welcome, Ricky.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, you too.
And you found us okay?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
Always good.
Have you been here before?
No, not at all.
Okay. All right. Well, I know little about why you're here today, but it's great to see you. And so maybe a good point to start with is tell me why you're here.
Sure. I guess, maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, I had sort of like this group of friends come around to my place, and they were sort of saying that it was just like a night to hang out and watch DVDs and stuff, and then they sort of sat me down and were like, maybe you need to get a bit of help for, drug stuff. And, I was sort of like, well, and I was quite annoyed by that at first, but I suppose, I thought about it for a bit, and then I was like, well, I guess it can't hurt to talk to someone about it, maybe.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's led you to being here today?
Yeah.
Aye.
Yeah, I just sort of did a bit of search on the internet and stuff, and just heard about this place, so I just thought of...
Right, so it sounds like you thought there was something that you needed to look at, something that was concerning you.
Yeah, I guess. I suppose I hadn't really thought about it till they sat me down, and then I could understand a little bit of where they're coming from, so yeah, I thought I'd...
They were concerned for you?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Which kind of was a bit of a shock, I suppose.
You were surprised?
Yeah. Yeah, because, I don't know, you see on movies when people sort of intervene or say, you need to go and get help, and I don't know, like, those characters, and they do need help, because they're fucked, and you kind of go, well, that's not me, so it's a bit...
You're not sure that applies to you?
Yeah, well, not to that extent, do you know what I mean? Like, I didn't think I was at anywhere near a point that I would need to be sat down and intervened with.
Okay.
If you know what I mean.
All right.
I suppose.
As I'm understanding you so far, something's concerning you and something's concerning your friends, but you're not sure whether just how bad it is, and you're just wanting to check that out.
Yeah, because I mean, they are my friends, and I'm not going to be so narrow-minded as to say sure that they're entirely wrong, because there's a big group of them, and they do care. So obviously there's something there that I might have overlooked. But on the other hand, I'm sort of like, well, was it that bad? Was that really necessary? But I thought I'd give them the benefit of the doubt and just check it out. Yeah.
Because they care about you, and you respect what they say, and you're wondering whether something about what they're saying may be right, but let's check that out a bit.
Yeah, pretty
much.
Right. Yeah.
Well, let's do some checking out.
Okay, cool.
So tell me a little bit about what you're doing. What is the concern that they're raising?
Drugs, I guess. Just sort of kind of do a bit of pee now and then, and I guess less often. I do a bit of, smoke a little bit, and party pills in the weekend sometimes.
Okay. Tell me a little bit about what now and again means and how often.
A couple of times a week, maybe.
Is this with the drug? This is meth you're talking about, and a couple of times a week. Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yeah. So I guess when I put it that way, it does sound quite a lot, but it doesn't feel a lot, if you know what I mean.
Well, maybe we can check that out, see whether it's a lot or. But maybe also importantly to discuss with you what the effects are and what your concerns are about it. But help me to understand a little bit more of what it's like for you. Tell me what are the things about your use of meth that you've liked, that you've found good for you.
I suppose it's kind of hand in hand with just hanging out with sort of this new scene that I've like. I moved to Auckland maybe 3 years ago, and I used to live in Palmy, and so as you can imagine, it's sort of a bit different down there. And kind of just when I first got here, I was sort of introduced a little bit to Family Bar on K Road.
I know Family Bar, yes.
Just that sort of, it's the scene, that kind of gay scene, I guess, and like it's not something I'd really thought about before, but then I kind of hung out there and just met these people that were sort of like you don't really get that much in Palmy. Right. Well, I mean, I suppose you do, but they're not. In Auckland, and bars like that, you can just be out in the open, and I suppose in Palmy you can't as easily. So just to arrive and see that and kind of meet these people that were just really friendly, and not judgmental. I don't know, Palmy often is that sort of like, oh, you gotta own a car and soup it up and drive up and down the main street, and I couldn't give a shit about that, so, or play rugby, and that didn't interest me at all. And so to come here and have people, talk about interesting stuff and have a good time and just want to go out and dance and stuff like that, that was quite cool for me to know that existed, because I hadn't seen that before. And then I suppose there's a lot of that goes on there, it's that kind of heavy party scene most weekends and stuff. So it kind of goes hand in hand with that, really. And just, I guess when I have it, it's like, I don't know, you just feel really good, I guess. Just feel like happy and excited, and just to be surrounded by people that really care about you and love you, and coming from a place where you don't get that as much. It's just really cool, to be able to go, okay, on this day I can take this, and it's just that instant, like, I know I'll feel good. I guess that's part of it.
So coming to Auckland from Palmerston for you was like taking charge of something, that you were going to look to make something different in your life. Yeah,
in a way, although I wouldn't have been conscious of that, really. I just sort of discovered it here. It's not like I came to Auckland looking for that. I kind of left to get away from, parents mainly, and that kind of lifestyle, that Palmy sort of lifestyle. But then, I discovered this other thing.
Which you weren't aware of in Palmerston?
No.
Okay.
No. I didn't really know. I guess you see sort of things like that in in movies from America, but you don't really think that it would exist in your own country. Well, not if you grow up in
Palmerston.
I don't mean to be mean about Palmy, but it's just a different kind of attitude, I guess, down there to that sort of thing.
It sounds like you were ready to move up to something that was different.
Yes.
And you came here to Auckland.
Yeah. I definitely wanted to get away from something. I didn't know what to, but then I arrived here and found this thing that was like, actually, this was obviously fate or whatever was pulling me to this thing, because it's like I found something in myself or something that was missing.
And how does that feel for you now?
Now, I guess now I'm just sort of used to it. When I first got here, I was like, wow, this is amazing. This is home, I guess. But, it's been 3 years now, so it's just kind of like I've gotten used to it. I mean, I guess I won't say I'd take it for granted, but it's just comfortable now. And it's just sort of what I do, really. Yeah, so I guess the drugs are linked to that, I suppose. It's just part of it. I don't really differentiate it. It's just kind of go, okay, I'm going to go out, hang with my friends, and that sort of thing, that Saturday, Friday night thing. And then it just happens, really, as part of that.
So coming out, being gay,
Yep.
being part of a gay culture here in Auckland is feeling good for you.
Yep.
And at the same time, it's linked closely with the drug scene, with the meth scene for you.
Yep.
And you're not experiencing where these two things are separate. They just seem to be together more often than not.
Well, I guess now that I think about it, maybe it's sort of gone beyond that. Maybe I didn't really notice that.
So
I mean, like I always, it's kind of a thing that happens in the weekends, but I guess sometimes in the weekdays, I'll pretty much every weekend I'll have a big night, maybe two, but sometimes, in the weekdays, like kind of Tuesday or Wednesday or something, if I just kind of feel like doing something, then I might do that. Sometimes see if someone else wants to come round and join me, or occasionally by myself. I might have a smoke by myself or something like that. And I guess that isn't entirely linked to that scene, I suppose.
So it sounds like something's worrying you about it, that there's a part link there, but there's not a link, and that maybe that the drugs is becoming a more important part in your life.
Maybe. I suppose I hadn't really thought about it until recently.
So something's changed recently.
Yeah. I suppose just since that kind of intervention thing, I started to give them the benefit of the doubt, and then I was maybe noticing some things that I hadn't noticed, but...
Tell me about those things you're noticing that you hadn't noticed before.
Oh, well, I mean, even just now, when you ask me how often...
That surprised you?
Surprised me to think about, when you do stuff and you don't really think about it. But then if someone asks you, how often, and then you kind of have to quantify it, I suppose it kind of sounds shocking, if I imagine myself sort of saying, I do this, a few times a week. It sounds shocking, but to me, it doesn't feel that way. That's kind of where where it kind of doesn't sit right. That's why I kind of got a bit miffed at my friends a little bit, or I don't know, a bit defensive there, because it sounds a lot, but it doesn't feel out of control or anything. It doesn't feel. I know people that need to go and see therapists or whatever. You kind of go, oh, they're an addict. Their health is really bad and they need urgent help right now, quickly. Oh, well, at least that's kind of the feeling you get. And I don't feel that at all. I don't feel like it's a real urgent thing. So that felt a bit weird.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're worried a little bit about it, and you're going to find out more about it, but you're not going to take on this notion of being an addict or anything as yet.
Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely.
So tell me then, Ricky, what's the other side of the good things that using meth or doing some smoking does for you? Is there a downside to it? Are there problems that you're experiencing?
Yeah. I suppose money's quite a a big thing. Like, I used to have a lot more money sort of last year. I had quite a good job, like quite a regular acting job.
Mm-hmm.
And that was like got quite a lot of money last year, so it wasn't such a problem then, and I suppose I sort of blew that money a little bit. So now I don't have that acting income coming in as frequently, and I'm working in a cafe, like sort of part-time, and that's not bringing in as much. So now it's kind of like, and sometimes I need to borrow a bit of money or sort of need a bit of help with the rent sometimes.
Quite a lot's changed over the last year from...
Yeah, a little bit.
Doesn't sound like it was part of the plan.
No. But, that's the life of an actor, I suppose. Ups and downs. Works and not works.
Sure. It's not a secure profession.
No.
It's hard.
Not, yeah.
It's hard. But is there, I just wonder, is there a connection at all between the acting and the meth use in terms of the effect of the meth use on your ability to get work?
Could have been a couple of auditions that I didn't do so well in as I could have because of that.
The drug may have had an effect on that?
Maybe. Maybe it's just my general sort of state. I know, sometimes I suppose it just kind of weighs on my mind a little bit, like, what am I doing, or why am I spending my money on this? I mean, when it's happening, it's like, this is amazing. You go into places, interesting places, but I could just as well have saved that money and actually gone to interesting places, I suppose. But I don't know. I wonder if it's having an effect. I don't know. I can't say for sure, but maybe it's not so good for the face. I don't know. I don't know if I look tired or run down,
Right.
or if I actually am tired or run down. I suppose, again, this is things that I haven't really thought about.
Right.
But now I am starting to think about.
Right. And they're good questions to
I
ask.
guess.
So
Yeah.
you're beginning to think about those things and what effects they may have on you. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the choices that you might have about it.
Yeah.
What else? So the problem around the use of money, you know, the choices that you make around money, and the meth use has taken up quite a lot of the money over the last year, and maybe also the effect on your job and being able, maybe you're not auditioning as well as you might.
Yep.
And maybe the effects also on your physical appearance. An interesting question around the effect of meth use on physical appearance. So, are there any other problems, any other things that are a bit of a downside to this?
Well, I guess it's obviously having some sort of effect on my friends and my flatmates. Because, you know, they sat me down and said, look, you got to look into this or else we can't hang out anymore.
And that's a problem?
That would be a problem, yeah.
Why?
If they didn't want to hang out, well, then what have I got, I suppose?
They're important.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, part of it, part of it I just wonder, because, you know, a lot of those friends that sat me down are obviously the ones that are not part of that scene. I mean, there were a couple there that are, but mostly they were the ones that sort of have always sort of been a bit judgy. You know, like when I first started all this stuff, you know, and clearly there wasn't a problem, like, because I used to be that guy as well, you know, like, no, I would never do that because it's bad, and then you try it the first time and you go, actually, it's not that bad. It's not the end of the world. If you're sensible with it, then it's not going to be, you know, you have to take a stupid amount to do any kind of like, or, you know, to die or to end up in a hospital. So it's provided you're not stupid with it, then it's just a bit of fun. But you can't really explain that to people who have their walls up. So it's hard not to sit in this room full of people kind of going, oh, you know, you really should stop the drugs, they're bad. It's like, well, actually, you don't know what you're talking about.
But Ricky, let me just check, because I may have got this wrong, just check with you that there are some friends that you've got who do use, who are still concerned about you. Did I get that right from what you said earlier, that those who are concerned about you and were part of this intervention, some of them use?
Yep. Yeah.
And you, so they have their concerns, and you are beginning to ask questions of this use as well. And it's just that we're going to try and drill down a little more into, just to pick up for you what you think might be going on and what you think might be some of the options for you.
Yep.
And we're going to leave labels and all that kind of stuff aside, because, you know, I'm picking up from you that that's not what that's about. I'm happy with that. What do you think will happen? What might happen if you continue your use as you are now? What concerns do you have about not making any kind of change?
Well, I suppose the acting thing is a really big concern.
Right.
Because I want that to be my job. You know, I'm fucking sick of cafes.
This is going to be your career. This is the career you want to make.
I'd like it to be, yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's harder when you're trying to create your career, get that going. You've got to be at your top pitch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because, I mean, it's all, you know, it's partly luck and partly being at the right place at the right time. And if you're at the right place and at the right time and you're not on your game, then that could have been it.
Yeah, and maybe the meth use is compromising that.
Yeah, it could be.
Hmm.
Yeah, and I suppose also like money is linked into that as well. I'm not doing as many courses and stuff as I used to be doing because don't have the money.
All right, so it's back to the money thing again, which is...
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously I don't want to keep pissing my flatmates
Yeah.
off.
Yeah.
And it's not cool to not pay the rent, obviously. It's not something I'm happy with.
That creates problems.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't want to be that person.
Let's just come back to another thing that we were talking about a little bit earlier, and it's around your meth use as well, and with your gay friends, with gay lifestyle. And it sounds like you're saying that when you party, when you're going to the clubs, when you're being with friends, that the meth use is always there.
Yeah.
The availability of it is there.
Yeah.
And most people are using.
Yeah, not necessarily pay or whatever, but yeah, most people are doing something. Yeah. I suppose, yeah, it's kind of part of that scene that there's not a huge... Like, you go to normal bars and most people are just drunk and wasted and, like, spewing everywhere and stuff. And whereas that's a different scene. Like, people drink, but they don't drink to that excess, but they take other things and have a good time. And, yeah.
And it might be hard to be part of that scene and not to be using drugs.
Yeah. I mean, there are people that do that. I suppose it would be hard. I haven't really thought about it, I suppose. It's all I've known that seemed to be, because I'm quite new to it. And
right.
So from the beginning it was always that.
So there is a possibility that there are other parts of the scene that don't rely on drug use,
Yeah.
or particularly on meth use.
Well, yeah, well, there must be. I can't imagine everyone is that. I guess just the majority,
Yeah.
or at least the majority of the people that I know, yeah.
So that might be something that we can look at a bit later if you're interested in, is maybe what are some of those other parts of the gay scene who still party and party madly, but where
Yeah.
meth is not a dominant
Yeah.
factor in that partying. And where there are gay groups that support people who are not wanting to have a lifestyle that is heavily weighted to drug use. So there are some options there to look at, some other ideas that if you're interested in, we might look at that for you to think about,
Yeah.
to consider. So it's not about giving up anything, it's not about huge major changes, it's about how can I improve a situation.
Yep.
That's what I'm hearing you say. Be a little bit more in control of what's going on for me.
Yep.
So that I can pursue that plan. What could be a first step towards that?
Well, I must say I was a bit, at the start when I was sort of saying, this is how often I do it, and then I found myself talking about the kind of the weekday stuff. I kind of took myself back a bit there. I suppose, on a Wednesday by yourself, like, it doesn't sound that good.
So that needs some thinking about, doesn't it?
Yeah.
As to what
Yeah.
what would work for you as an alternative.
Yeah. Yeah, but I think you're right about just something to look forward to, because that's that midweek slump, you know. It's so far away till people will be in that place where they can hang out and have a good time.
Yeah. And there are things that got to work for you, so that it's
Yeah.
your ideas on there which are really important. But again, there are some options that if you wanted to look at, you know, just to at least to be able to know what they are. Because there are clubs and there are groups and there are all kinds of things that meet through the week.
Yeah.
And so, though they're not going to be necessarily like the party scene, they are other activities. I'm talking about gay groups and gay activities, which are an option that, you know, good to know about, and maybe within those options is something you might say, oh yeah, I'd give that a go, have a look.
Yeah, yep.